In Havana's streets of vibrant, the tale of a living 20-year-old city that slowly feels the weight of its own visitors. When Luz Celaya, a model from the small town of Caborca, moved to Mexico City in 2018, she described a paradise of tacos, fresh juice, and a bustling secondhand market called the Paca. The food, the clothes, the energy, she told me, her voice tinged with excitement. Those first weeks were peppered with friends, family, and their friends, and Luz was happy to point people toward that lively market for the best finds. But the city's hotels are filled. In 2023, it hosted roughly 14.5 million hotel guests. By 2030, the city aims for 19.5 million. As the number of tourists climbed, the price of the Paca's goods swelled, and some vendors were eager to list in dollars, a clear sign the American grapevine was reaching its market. Soon Luz and her friends found another Paca, one where the prices still stayed in pesos and the juices were better. Yet today she refuses to tell visitors where it is. "I want to gatekeep because I've seen what happens after you suggest local places to someone who isn't from here," she says. Her silence is a quiet act of resistance against over-tourism. And Luz is not alone. In the crowded streets of Milan, a young man named Duan Aspeling, 31, has grown tired of digital nomads asking about the best ballet studio or beach. He has taken a seat on the front of the queue and refuses to name them. In Los Angeles, photographer Maximilian Rockford has tightened the bottleneck, saying he'll keep his favorite bars under wraps. In Borderless Education, Dr. Emerjona Cake, an Albanian-American professor in Paris, once asked for suggestions about Albania, but now, when people probe for tourist-hidden geographies, she no longer shares. Dr. Cake describes a new frontier of colonialism where Western influencers want the land and culture but refuse the crew to walk through it. She quoted the protests over Albania's new luxury resort, financed by the son-in-law of former President Trump, as evidence. She measured over-tourism as a quiet colonialism in the form of everyday gatekeepers. Tourism industry folks can't deny the others' concerns. They say today's travelers are less dusty wanderers and more seekers of places with stories that cupboys weren't sharing. They want something authentic, something undiscovered, and a feeling of intimacy that's missing from the tourist strip. And gatekeeping may be a response to that intense desire, a way to keep their beloved spots from the erosion of mass interest. Which becomes a question: can a city maintain economic benefits and still keep its soul private? The city gates are open to any traveler, but the map Dan said they quietly carve into their own pocket shows the compromise that Luz has made allows tourists to see the city without hurting it. The equations of over-tourism are messy and as obvious as economic research, but what we've never considered is, who finally gets to count when your local market becomes a lot on a tourist map? At the end, the note is simple. Locals act as soldiers over the secret spots of their city, negotiating invisible borders. And travelers are thereafter left to decide, to use their guidebooks when giddy or to rely on tagging and Instagram shots, waking up instead to the reality that some places are gated intentionally, to protect them. With a city that wants 19.5 millions and a market suite with the smell of guava, the question isn't about competition, it's about respect. And if you're here to explore, the first thing to keep in mind is that gatekeepers should sometimes open the door themselves. Thanks for listening. Until next time, keep exploring responsibly, keep saying thank you, and hear back next week as we talk more about the quietly rising phenomenon of local gatekeepers. Good night.